I found my bronze star at the bottom of a black plastic garbage bag on the side of my mother-in-law's house at 6:47 in the morning on a Sunday in April. It was raining. The bag had been sitting on the curb overnight, waiting for the Monday morning trash pickup. It had a small tear on the side, and through that tear, I could see a flash of blue ribbon and a piece of bronze metal that I had not seen in 9 days. I got down on my knees on the wet asphalt in my pajamas and a raincoat, and I tore that garbage bag open with my bare hands. My bronze star was in there. My Army Commendation Medal was in there. My Combat Action Badge was in there. My deployment ribbons, all 7 of them, were in there. My airborne wings, my honorable discharge papers, my father's Vietnam-era Purple Heart, which I had kept in the same shadow box for 11 years. All of it, in a garbage bag, on the side of the road. I sat down on the curb in the rain, and then I did something I had not done in the 4 years since I left the Army. I made a phone call. I made a phone call to a man I had not spoken to since 2020, and 48 hours later, he was standing on my mother-in-law's front porch. The marriage. My name is Jessica Bennett. I am 34 years old. I served 8 years in the United States Army, most of it in a civil affairs battalion out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I deployed twice, once to Afghanistan in 2015, once to Iraq in 2018. I separated from active duty in 2021 as a captain. I moved to a small town in Pennsylvania called Doylestown, about 40 minutes north of Philadelphia, because that is where my husband Adam grew up, and because Adam had been offered a partnership at his father's accounting firm. I want to tell you about my mother-in-law, Patricia Bennett, because you cannot understand what happened on that Sunday morning without understanding Patricia. Patricia is 68 years old. She lives in a 5-bedroom colonial on a 2-acre lot in the historic district of Doylestown. She has lived in that house for 41 years. She raised her 3 children in that house. Adam, my husband, his older sister Meredith, a pediatric dentist in Philadelphia, and his younger brother Christopher, a real estate developer in Bucks County. Patricia is the president of the Doylestown Garden Club. She sits on the board of the local historical society. She hosts Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and her own birthday every year at the Colonial. And she has done so for 4 decades without missing a single occasion. Patricia did not want Adam to marry me. I want to be honest about this, because I think a lot of people watching this will recognize what I am about to describe. Patricia did not object to me for the obvious reasons. She did not object because I was from a different background. I grew up in a small town in western Pennsylvania, the daughter of a truck driver and a school cafeteria manager. She did not object because I was Army, although we will come back to that. She did not object because I was, as she called me once at Adam's cousin's wedding, a girl with a sturdy face. Patricia objected because Adam had been engaged, before me, to a woman named Elizabeth Whitmore. Elizabeth was the daughter of Patricia's best friend from Vassar. Elizabeth had grown up 2 blocks from the Bennett Colonial. Elizabeth had been, in Patricia's mind, the pre-approved daughter-in-law since Adam was about 11 years old. Adam had broken off the engagement with Elizabeth 6 months before he met me. Patricia never forgave either of us. For the 4 years I dated Adam, and for the 3 years we have been married, Patricia has waged what I can only describe as a quiet war. Patricia does not shout. Patricia does not insult openly. Patricia's weapon is what my grandmother used to call polite cruelty, the small, precise, deniable cuts that a certain kind of woman perfects over decades of hosting garden clubs and historical societies. Patricia introduces me, at parties, as Adam's wife Jessica. She was in the service. She says it the way some people say she was on parole. Patricia asks me every Christmas Eve if I am still doing that consulting thing, meaning my job as a program manager at a defense contractor in King of Prussia, which she has known about for 3 years and pretends every December to have forgotten. Patricia tells the Garden Club, when I am within earshot, that Adam married beneath himself but he seems happy. I have never fought back. I have never fought back because Adam asked me not to. Adam, who loves his mother, and who loves me, has spent 7 years telling me that Patricia will come around. Adam has told me that Patricia is harmless. Adam has told me that Patricia is harmless, is a generational thing, and that I should not take it personally. I have not fought back. I have let Patricia say what she says. I have smiled. I have brought her flowers on her birthday. I have sat through 47 Sunday dinners at the Colonial. I have called her mom when she has asked me not to. And in April of this year, I did something I had not done in the 7 years I had known Patricia Bennett. I asked her a favor, Adam and I were renovating our house. We had bought a small Cape Cod in Doylestown 2 years earlier, and we had finally saved enough money to do a proper kitchen remodel. The contractor had told us we would need to move out for 6 weeks. Our own family was 3 hours away in western Pennsylvania. My parents' house was too small for 2 adults and a Labrador. Adam suggested we ask his mother if we could stay in her guest wing, the 2-bedroom suite at the east end of the Colonial that Patricia normally reserved for visiting family from Boston. I did not want to ask. Adam asked. Patricia said yes. She said yes so enthusiastically that Adam looked at me over the kitchen table and said, "See? She's mellowing." We moved into the guest wing on April 3rd. I brought 2 suitcases. Adam brought 2 suitcases. And I brought one thing that I did not tell Adam I was bringing, because he would have told me to leave it at our house. I brought my shadow box. The shadow box was 15 inches by 20 inches. It was cherry wood. It had a glass front. Inside the shadow box were every military decoration I had earned in 8 years of service, plus my father's Purple Heart from Vietnam, which he had given me 2 years before he died in 2019. The shadow box had been sitting on the wall of our living room in the Cape Cod for 2 years. Adam had built the frame himself. He had ordered the display insert online. It was, in a small way, the most precious object I owned. I could not leave it in a house under construction. Contractors would be walking through the house every day for 6 weeks. Drop cloths would be everywhere. Dust, debris. I did not trust the shadow box to survive the renovation. I brought it with me. I put it on the desk in the guest wing bedroom, on top of a small linen doily Patricia had left there, and I did not think about it again for 6 days. On the 7th day, I came home from work at 5:45 in the evening, walked into the guest wing bedroom, and the shadow box was gone. The missing shadow box. I want to walk you through the 9 days between when I noticed the shadow box was missing and when I found it in the garbage bag, because those 9 days are the reason my mother-in-law's life is about to change forever. I did not panic on the first day. I looked around the guest wing. I looked in the closet. I looked under the bed. I called Adam, who was at his firm in downtown Doylestown. Adam said Patricia had probably moved it while cleaning. Adam said not to worry. Adam said he would ask his mother when we sat down for dinner. We sat down for dinner at 7. Patricia had made pot roast. She served me a portion smaller than everyone else's. She had done this every Sunday dinner for 7 years, and it had stopped bothering me after year 2. Adam waited until the salad course. Then he said, casually, "Mom, did you move Jess's shadow box? She can't find it in the guest room." Patricia took a sip of wine. She said, "Oh, that big wooden thing on the desk? Yes, dear, I moved it. It was terribly out of place in the guest suite. I put it somewhere safe." Adam said, "Where's somewhere safe?" Patricia smiled. She said, "I'll bring it out for her in a few days. It's fine, dear. Let's enjoy the pot roast." I looked at Adam. Adam looked at me. He raised his eyebrows very slightly, the expression I had seen him make 100 times. The expression that meant, "Don't push this right now. I'll handle it later." I did not push it. I finished the pot roast. I helped clear the dishes. I went to bed in the guest wing. On the second day, I asked Patricia again, politely, at breakfast, where the shadow box was. Patricia said, "Oh, Jessica, honey, I'm still deciding where to put it. It's such a large piece." On the third day, I asked again. Patricia said she had put it in storage. On the fourth day, I asked to see it. Patricia said she would bring it out this weekend. On the fifth day, I asked Adam to ask her. Adam asked her. Patricia told him, in front of me, in the kitchen, "Adam, dear, please tell your wife to stop pestering me about a picture frame. It is a picture frame. She is being incredibly rude." Adam looked at me. He said, "Jess, maybe we can talk about this later." I said, "Adam, those are my father's medals. Those are my medals. That is the only object I asked to keep in this house." Patricia said, "Jessica, please do not raise your voice in my kitchen." I had not raised my voice, but I stopped talking because I was standing in Patricia Bennett's kitchen on day 5 of a 6-week stay, with 3 weeks of kitchen renovation still ahead of me, and my husband looking at me with the expression that meant, "Please don't do this now." I stopped talking. That night, I went to bed. I did not sleep. At 2:30 in the morning, I got up. I put on Adam's bathrobe. I walked, quietly, through the sleeping Colonial, and I searched every room I could search without opening a locked door. The library, the formal dining room. The mudroom, the 2 hall closets, the pantry, the basement, which was, I noticed, unlocked for the first time in the 7 years I had known this house. I did not find the shadow box. I did find, in the basement, a small trash can behind the water heater that had been recently emptied. I went back upstairs. I got back into bed next to Adam. I did not sleep. On day 6, I did something I had not done in 7 years of marriage to Adam Bennett. I lied to my husband. I told him I had to go into the office on Saturday for a mandatory security briefing. I told him I would be gone from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I asked him if he would help his mother with the garden. Patricia had, that morning, mentioned she wanted the boxwoods trimmed, so she would be occupied during the day. Adam said yes. Adam did not question the story. On Saturday morning, I left the Colonial at 5:47 a.m. I drove to a diner on Route 611, and I sat in a booth and drank coffee for 2 hours. Then, at 8 a.m., I drove back to the Colonial and I parked 1 street over. I walked the perimeter of the property. I looked in the compost pile behind the garden shed. I looked in the recycling bins by the driveway. I looked in the 2 garbage cans at the end of the side yard. I did not find the shadow box. I got back in my car. I sat in my car for a long time. Then I drove into Doylestown, and I went to a small hardware store on State Street, and I bought a heavy-duty flashlight and a pair of work gloves. On day 7, Sunday morning, I woke up at 6:30. Adam was still asleep. Patricia was, I knew from 7 years of Sunday routine, in the front garden with her morning coffee. The Colonial's east side, the side where the guest wing was, and the side where Patricia kept the outdoor trash cans that went to the curb on Monday mornings, was empty. I put on Adam's bathrobe. I put on a raincoat over the bathrobe. I put on the work gloves. I walked out the side door of the guest wing. The rain had started at about 4 a.m. It was still coming down. Patricia's trash bags were on the curb, 3 of them, black plastic, tied at the top. The first 2 were kitchen trash, vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, wrapping paper. The 3rd bag was heavier. I dragged the 3rd bag off the curb. I got down on my knees. I found the small tear on the side, and I saw a flash of blue ribbon. I tore the bag open. Everything was in there. Every ribbon, every medal. My father's Purple Heart. The wooden shadow box itself had been broken into 4 pieces. The cherry wood frame had been snapped along the joints and shoved to the bottom, under a bag of moldy potato skins and a broken flower pot. I sat down on the wet curb. I did not cry. I picked up my phone. I opened my contacts. I scrolled to a name I had not called in 4.5 years. I called Major General Marcus Reeves, United States Army, retired, my former battalion commander from Iraq in 2018. He answered on the 3rd ring. I said, "Sir, it's Bennett. I'm sorry to call so early. I need your help with something." There was a pause. Then he said, "Jess, anything. What is it?" I told him. I told him everything. The 7 years of Patricia. The 4 years of Adam telling me she would come around. The shadow box on the desk. The 9 days. The bag on the curb. My father's Purple Heart in the bottom of the bag with the potato skins. General Reeves did not interrupt. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Jess, where does she live?" I said, "Sir?" He said, "Your mother-in-law. Where does she live?" "Address." I gave him the address. He said, "I'll be there Tuesday afternoon, 3 p.m. I'm flying up from Fort Bragg." I said, "Sir, you don't have to." He said, "Bennett, I'm going to say this once. Your father served in Vietnam. Your father earned that Purple Heart. Your father gave it to you. That woman threw it in the trash. Now you listen to me very carefully. I am flying up on Tuesday. I am arriving at that house at 3 p.m., and I am going to have a conversation with your mother-in-law. Do you understand me?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "One more thing, Bennett. Do not tell your husband. Do not tell your mother-in-law. Do not tell anyone. Are we clear?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Tuesday, 3 p.m. Chin up, Captain." He hung up. I sat on the curb in the rain, holding my father's Purple Heart in my hand, for another 20 minutes. Then I picked up the pieces of the shadow box. I picked up every medal, every ribbon, every piece of paper. I put them in a plastic grocery bag. I walked back into the guest wing. I put the plastic bag in the bottom drawer of the desk. I locked it with a small key I kept on my keychain. I went upstairs. I made breakfast. I smiled at Patricia when she came in from the garden. I did not tell Adam anything. For 48 hours, I said nothing. Tuesday, 3 p.m. Major General Marcus Reeves arrived at the Bennett Colonial at 2:57 p.m. on Tuesday, April 15th. He arrived in a black government sedan. There was a driver, a young Army sergeant in Class B uniform. There was, in the passenger seat, a second officer, a colonel, whom I did not recognize. General Reeves was in his dress green uniform. He was 61 years old. He was 6'4". He had 2 silver stars on each shoulder. He had a chest full of ribbons that included the Silver Star, the Bronze Star with V device, 3 Purple Hearts, and the Distinguished Service Medal. He walked up the front path of the Colonial. The colonel walked 2 paces behind him. The sergeant remained with the sedan. I was standing at the window of the guest wing, watching. Adam was at his firm. Patricia was in the sunroom on the south side of the house, having tea with a friend from the garden club, a woman named Vivian Lucas, whom I had met a dozen times. General Reeves rang the doorbell. I heard Patricia's voice from the sunroom. Bright, curious, the voice of a woman who was expecting a delivery. "Vivian, darling, would you be a lamb? I think that's my new china." I heard Vivian's footsteps in the hallway. I heard the front door open. I heard Vivian Lucas say, Oh my goodness, gentlemen, may I help you?" General Reeves said, "Ma'am, I'm looking for Mrs. Patricia Bennett. Is she at home?" Vivian said, May I ask who's calling?" General Reeves said, "Major General Marcus Reeves, United States Army, and Colonel James Halberstam, United States Army." There was a very long silence. Then Vivian's voice, much smaller now. One moment please, gentlemen." I heard her footsteps run, back down the hallway. I heard, from the sunroom, an urgent whispered conversation. I could not make out the words, but I could hear the tone. Vivian's panic, Patricia's confusion, Patricia's rising indignation. I heard Patricia's chair scrape back. I heard Patricia's heels on the hardwood floor of the hallway. I heard the front door of the Colonial open. I opened the door of the guest wing very quietly and stepped into the main hallway. I stood at the far end, in the shadow of the staircase, where I could see and hear everything. Patricia was standing in the front doorway. She was in a pale blue cashmere twin set. She had one hand on the doorframe. Her mouth was slightly open. General Reeves said, "Mrs. Bennett, good afternoon. I apologize for arriving unannounced. May we come in?" Patricia said, I'm sorry, General. Is there some kind of a problem?" General Reeves said, "Ma'am, I would prefer to have this conversation inside. May we come in?" Patricia stepped aside. She did not know what to do. She was Patricia Bennett of the Doylestown Garden Club and the Bucks County Historical Society, and a 2-star general of the United States Army was on her front porch. And she had been raised in an era when you did not turn a 2-star general away from your door. The general and the colonel walked into the foyer. Vivian Lucas was standing in the doorway of the sunroom, both hands over her mouth. General Reeves said, "Mrs. Bennett, my name is Major General Marcus Reeves. I am the former commanding officer of the 96th Civil Affairs Battalion at Fort Bragg. I served as the battalion commander from 2017 to 2020. During that time, one of my company commanders was your daughter-in-law, Captain Jessica Bennett," Patricia said. Yes, Jessica. She's staying with us right now, actually. General Reeves said, "Ma'am, I am going to interrupt you, because what I am about to say is important. Are you listening?" Patricia nodded. General Reeves said, "In November of 2018, in Anbar Province, Iraq, your daughter-in-law commanded a civil affairs team that was ambushed while conducting a humanitarian assessment in a village near Ramadi. Captain Bennett's team came under enemy fire. 2 of her soldiers were wounded. Captain Bennett, under fire, moved 40 meters across open ground, extracted both wounded soldiers, provided combat first aid, coordinated an air medevac, and returned fire against the attacking element for approximately 18 minutes until a quick reaction force arrived. Both wounded soldiers survived. Captain Bennett received a shrapnel wound to her left thigh during the engagement, which she did not report until after the medevac had lifted." Patricia said, I didn't, Jessica never told us." General Reeves said, "Ma'am, she would not have told you. She would not have told anyone, because Captain Bennett is that kind of officer. She was awarded the Bronze Star with V device for valor for her actions that day. The medal was pinned on her chest by me, personally, at a ceremony at Fort Bragg in February of 2019. It is one of the highest decorations for combat valor that the United States Army awards. Do you understand what I am telling you, Mrs. Bennett? Patricia's face had gone completely white. She said, General, I had no idea. General Reeves said, Ma'am, I am aware that you had no idea. Because if you had had any idea, you would not have taken that bronze star out of a wooden shadow box on your guest room desk, along with the rest of your daughter-in-law's military decorations, along with her father's Purple Heart from Vietnam, and thrown them into a plastic garbage bag on the side of your house on Saturday night. Would you, Mrs. Bennett? Patricia made a sound. It was not a word. Vivian Lucas sat down on a chair in the foyer. Actually sat down. General Reeves said, Ma'am, I am not here in an official capacity. This is not an Army investigation. Your daughter-in-law is not filing charges. She is not asking for an apology. She did not ask me to come here. I am here because I served with Captain Bennett in combat, because I was the officer who awarded her that Bronze Star, and because when a Bronze Star recipient calls me on a Sunday morning to tell me her mother-in-law has thrown her medals in the trash, I get on an airplane. Do you understand me, Mrs. Bennett? Patricia was crying. Silent, terrified tears. General Reeves said, I am going to make one request of you, ma'am. Colonel Halberstam and I are going to leave your home in about 3 minutes. Before we leave, I am going to hand you a business card with my personal cell phone number on it. I would like you to think, very carefully, about how you would like this situation to be resolved, if you would like to make it right. With your daughter-in-law, with her father's memory, with the Army, you may call me. If you do not call me, that is your choice. But I want you to understand that Captain Bennett has earned, at a minimum, a formal apology from you, in writing, delivered to her in person, in front of your son. Do we understand each other? Patricia nodded. She could not speak. General Reeves handed her a small white card. He said, Ma'am, good afternoon. He and Colonel Halberstam walked out the front door. Vivian Lucas did not move. Patricia stood in the foyer of her colonial, holding a small white business card, staring at the front door. I stepped out from the shadow of the staircase. Patricia saw me. She said, Jessica, please, I walked past her. I walked out the front door. I walked down the front path in the April sunshine. General Reeves was standing next to the black sedan. He saw me coming. He came to attention. He rendered a hand salute. I returned it. He said, Captain, I'll be in touch. Take care of yourself. He got in the car. The sedan pulled away. I stood on the front lawn of the Bennett Colonial for a long moment. Then I walked back inside. Patricia was still in the foyer. She was holding the business card in one hand and the door frame in the other. I walked past her without saying a word. I went into the guest wing. I picked up my 2 suitcases. I picked up the plastic bag with my medals in it. I put everything in the back of my car. I left the Bennett Colonial at 3:47 p.m. on Tuesday, April 15th. I have not been back. The restoration Adam called me at 6:12 that evening. He had come home from work. Patricia had told him everything. He was crying on the phone. He said Patricia had told him she had thrown the shadow box away because the guest room desk was for guests, not for storage. He said she had told him she did not realize the medals were important. He said his mother was inconsolable. I said, Adam, where are you right now? He said, I'm in my mother's kitchen. I said, Adam, I want you to think very carefully about the sentence you just spoke, and I want you to think about whether you would like to come home to me or stay in your mother's kitchen. He said, Jess, please, my mother is... I said, Adam, I am at the Hampton Inn on Route 611. I will be here for 3 nights. If you would like to come to the Hampton Inn tonight and have a conversation with me about our marriage, I will be in room 214. If you do not come tonight, I will assume you have made your choice. I love you. Goodbye. I hung up. Adam came to the Hampton Inn at 8:30 that night. We talked for 4 hours. I do not want to tell you everything we said, because it is between us. But I will tell you the sentence that ended the conversation. I told Adam that for 7 years I had been asking him to choose me over his mother, and he had been telling me I did not have to, and that on Saturday night, his mother had taken my father's Purple Heart out of a wooden shadow box that he, Adam, had built with his own hands, and had thrown it in the garbage. And that I needed to know, before I got back in the car with him, whether he was capable of understanding what that meant. He said he was. He said it in a way that I believed. We moved back into our Cape Cod on May 1st, after the renovation was finished. The kitchen looks beautiful. I hung the shadow box. Repaired, refinished by Adam himself over 6 weekends in his father's wood shop. on the wall of the living room where it had always been. Patricia sent me a letter 3 weeks after the incident. It was handwritten. It was 4 pages long. It was, I think, the first honest thing she had written to me in 7 years. She apologized. She did not make excuses. She said she had spent 40 years assuming that her opinion of a person was the correct one, and that she had never, until General Reeves stood in her foyer, realized how wrong she could be about a person. I did not respond to the letter for 2 months. When I did respond, I wrote her 1 paragraph. I told her that I forgave her, and that I did not want to see her for a while, and that when I was ready, I would call. I called her in September. I went to lunch with her at a small restaurant in New Hope. We did not talk about the medals. We did not talk about Adam. We talked about her garden. We talked about my job. She asked me, for the first time, what my father had done in Vietnam. I told her. She listened. She asked good questions. When the check came, she paid it. We have had lunch 4 times since then. We are not close. I do not know if we will ever be close. But we are. For the first time in 7 years, 2 women who can sit across a table from each other without one of us drawing blood. Major General Marcus Reeves calls me every few months, just to check in. He is retired now. He lives in North Carolina. He has a small farm and 3 grandchildren. He tells me, every time we speak, that the day he flew up to Doylestown was one of the proudest days of his career. I asked him once why he came. He said, Bennett, in 2018, in Anbar, you crossed 40 meters of open ground under fire for 2 wounded soldiers who did not have your rank, your training, or your career. If I would not fly 200 miles to defend the memory of a Vietnam veteran's Purple Heart, then I did not deserve to be your commander in the first place. Some things are simple, Captain. I have thought about that sentence for 8 months. Some things are simple. I keep the shadow box on the wall of my living room. My father's Purple Heart is in the top left corner. My Bronze Star is next to it. And in the bottom right corner, in a small brass frame Adam added to the shadow box last summer, is Major General Marcus Reeves's business card, the one Patricia handed back to me the last time I saw her at her colonial. She had never called him. She had not needed to. If you have ever had someone throw away the thing that mattered most to you, if you have ever held a broken piece of your family's history in your hands, and understood, in that moment, that some people simply do not see what you have carried, I want you to leave 1 word in the comments below. Just 1 word. The name of a person, living or gone, whose memory you would fly 200 miles to defend. Say their name, because someone in this comment section is going to see it, and they are going to remember to pick up the phone. And if this story reminded you that loyalty across ranks and years is the rarest gift a person can be given, subscribe. Because next week, I am telling you about a husband who signed the divorce papers smiling. His lawyer saw my Pentagon clearance and stopped him mid-sentence. I'll see you there.